Ladies and gentlemen, the 3 knockdown rule on Triller is in effect. I'm Steve Kim, joined by Mr. 619, Mario Lopez. I was there on Wednesday, and I'm going back for the weekend.
What were you doing there on Wednesday? Oh, because you went to go interview our ginger friend.
Yes.
Right, I saw that.
Yes.
Mr. Canelo Alvarez. More on that later.
And, of course, Roman Gonzalez fights there this weekend on the Zone. We're going to preview that before we get started.
Excited about that.
I want to thank everyone that makes this show possible, running smooth. Tim Frazier, the smoking one. Then we have Justin Buffalo Knuckles. And then Tino on the edits.
Yes,
but let's
sir.
get started. Last Saturday from the SSE Hydro in Glasgow, Scotland on ESPN+. Still the undisputed junior welterweight champion of the world, but there was controversy. Josh Taylor retains his title with a split decision over the game-crafty Jack Catterall. Your scores, 114-111, 113-112 for the defending champion, and a dissenting score of 113-112 Catterall. Mario, we sung the praises of Taylor the last couple of weeks, but we got to keep it honest. This was not a good night for him.
Let me tell you something. No one was more on Taylor's bandwagon than me. I have been tooting the horn, and considering his resume and the caliber of opponent that he has faced, I believe like his last 4 opponents had a combined record of like 142 and 1 or something ridiculous. They were all world champions, and the fact that he looked so good in those wins, I boldly stated that I thought he got to the point where a 60-40, maybe even a 50-50 fight with Terrence Crawford. Will you let me talk, for God's sakes, fearless soldier over here? You're upsetting me because you're interrupting my rant. I don't interrupt your rants. So I want to say I am a big fan of Josh Taylor, and I love his resume, and I love the caliber of opponents. I love the way he carries himself. With that said, I'm choosing my words carefully because first I want to apologize to Terrence Crawford. Okay? I want to apologize to Terrence Crawford because if that Josh Taylor showed up and faced any version of Terrence Crawford that I've seen in the ring, it wouldn't have boded well. Now, at the same time, Kim, before we get to the fight, I don't feel you should judge a man on one performance. Okay? I think you got to look at a guy and his body of work when you're gonna judge a guy, right? Or start to critique him.
Fair.
Okay? You can have an off night. I don't know if it was because it was his hometown. I don't know if it was because it was it was his Glasgow. It was another southpaw. I don't know if it was because of the layoff. I don't know because of all the circumstances and leading up to it. Or I don't want to discredit Catterall because my man came to fight. He was prepared. He was spirited. He had a great game plan, and he fought fearlessly. No pun intended. So the combination of you having a well-prepared game, balls to the wall, fellow undefeated fighter that doesn't know how to lose in Catterall, and all those other factors where it was his hometown, it was another southpaw, there was a bit of a layoff, maybe he was killing himself making weight.
That's a factor.
Okay? All those things came into play, and even though he got his hand raised, he did not win that fight, Kim.
Nope.
He did not win that fight. I don't care what anybody... I'm keeping it real, and I like Josh Taylor, but Catterall should have had his hand raised at the end of that fight. Taylor never seemed like... The thing about Taylor, one of the many things that I liked about him, he's always made adjustments, and he's always been able to sort of kind of figure a guy out and do what he needed to do to get in there. He did that with Ramirez. He did that with Prograis. He didn't do that at all. It's like he was looking for the one big punch and the one big knockout. He kept overshooting that left, and he was missing by a mile. And when he was getting it inside, he was like smothering himself, and he wasn't able to fight. And I'm like, what is going on? Catterall, on the other hand, was smart. When he went inside, he would tie him up. He was jittery, and with his feints working, that big left hand was landing flush. My guy was beating him up, and he looked marked up at the end of the night. When he dropped him, was it the 10th?
Round 8.
Oh, round 8. Okay. When he dropped, now, it was no flash knockdown. It was those loopy overhand shots. He caught him with it twice, and on the second one, boom, he went down. I thought he was going to close out the show. Now, credit to Taylor, because he's a tough guy, too, as far as being a craftsman, to gather himself enough and at least make a valiant effort to have somewhat of a fight in the last closing rounds to make it interesting. I do not think he did enough. I do not think he should have had his hand raised. And oh my God, the biggest travesty, that ref. How about that ref that started putting himself out there? And I was so irate about everything that was going on. And that ref, when he took away the point and then took away another one, when you start here, it's like he wanted to make himself the star of the night. He should never be allowed to call a professional fight again, much less a championship caliber fight. I was so annoyed by that. And with the deduction, I was just so annoyed. Catterall really impressed me. He looks really tough. So I don't want to discredit him at all. He did a really good job. I think those other things could have been factors, but at the end of the day, he should have had his hand raised, and he should have the 4 belts. That's being honest. I'm being honest right there with my assessment.
Good man. I don't have much more to add, but I will say this. When you fight once a year, every year, we can only judge you on one night. And I'm going to say this again. It's a Steve Kim mantra. In this game, activity matters, and either that blade is getting sharpened or it's getting dulled, and he looked like a dull blade. The thing with Catterall, that old line from Duke that you love, with his style and stature, he was very short. He was all wrong for him.
He was all wrong for us, baby.
He was. And right off the bat, you're right. He kept missing the left, and
by a lot.
Josh Taylor got caught up in no man's land defensively, and he got smacked in the first round with that hard left, and it was kind of a foreshadowing of, this is a real fight.
Weren't you shocked, though, that how he looked very anxious? He never looked relaxed, and he was never able to make adjustments, and he's usually been really good at making adjustments.
I kept looking for the right hook.
He looked very, very, exactly. There wasn't that. He looked just off to me. And I don't know what was the thing. Again, I don't want to take away from Catterall, but that was not the Taylor that I was used to, in my defense, right? That was not the Taylor that we've been seeing.
But I want to say this about Ben Davison, a guy that I really like, I get along with, and he's taking a lot of, as they say in the UK, a lot of stick as the trainer. Look, when you take all the credit when you're winning and you're out front, you got to take a lot of the blame when things don't go you well. Well, that's the way it is. But if I'm Ben Davison and if I'm a real coach, and you'd be surprised how often this does not happen in boxing, after a performance like that, I tell Josh Taylor, before you do anything, before you go on vacation, before I don't see you for 3 months, I need to see you here. Give me 30 minutes of your life. I want to watch this fight, and I want to point out everything you and I did wrong. It never happens, though.
Do you think he's honest with himself in his assessment at the end of the day? He seems like he would be a smart enough guy to be honest with himself.
On social media, he's putting out proclamations where he's much more respectful to Catterall, but he's still saying, but I won the fight. But in my view, when he lays down at night and he starts thinking, he's like, I don't think you won the fight.
Yeah.
Don't you think that happens to most guys? Like, publicly, you have to state, I won. But behind closed doors, you're thinking, maybe not.
I think he's trying to justify it, which I think, and I hate this expression, to beat a champion, you really got to take it from him. I hate that. It's like a race. If you're running a race, if you cross that finish line by an inch or you cross it by 5 meters, you win. Right. I hate that expression. You got to beat it to take it from a champ. So I don't. What I'm saying with that is I think he's using that sort of analogy to justify, like, well, he didn't really, he caught me one time with a shot, but I came on strong at the end. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Theoretically,
I think he's trying to convince himself of that.
Theoretically, you're not supposed to grade on a hometown curve. And let's face it, the A side with Taylor. Also, when people say, well, he's the champion, right? So in other words, if he's the champion, the advantage is I get to have this fight in my hometown.
Right.
I get more of the money.
Right.
I walk out second, and the crowd's going to be with me. But once that fight starts, it's 0-0.
Exactly.
Bottom line.
Exactly.
So I feel bad for Catterall. Had himself a great night. Unfortunately, he will not get the accolades and the history that he deserves. And now Taylor, this performance was so bad. No matter what the result is, now people are saying, oh, he's going to get wrecked at 47. Here's the problem, the catch-22. His days at 140, they look numbered, Mario.
Well, when we just had Bob Arum here this last week, didn't I bring that up? Because he's a big guy. When he was standing next to Terrence Crawford, ironically, a little while ago, I think they were in the same gym and they took a picture. He looked huge compared to Crawford. And Crawford's the bigger guy, theoretically, right? But Arum said, hey, he has no, correct me if I'm wrong, he has no problem making it. They tell me he's fine. Maybe that was just promoter talk because, again, we don't know if that was the case, but I think he's starting to say now that was his last fight at junior. Look, I still believe in the guy because I don't think you have a track record like he does not being the real deal against those quality of opponents, okay? I actually think when he goes to 47, because he's still pretty good size for even for a 47, One would think that he'd have his legs under him a little better. He's not killing himself to be there. Maybe even a little more punch in that, in his pop. Much like he reminds me a little bit, coincidentally, like Calzaghe, who, as he got when he was a super middle too, didn't lose, still slick, still was able to sting. Undefeated fighter, great fighter. I still think he'll be fine at welterweight. Do you disagree?
It depends. Am I going to see him in another year? I want to stick to this. I know I belabor the point.
Hold on, I know, but Kim,
fight...
not fair. Remember, he got sick one time. There was some other things that came up. I don't think he's the kind of guy that.
I'm just stating a fact.
No, I understand.
When you fight once a year, there could be an erosion of skill that you don't even feel or see to the night of the fight.
I agree with that, but I don't think he's the type of guy that wants to necessarily sit out. Those are certain circumstances. Assuming that's the case, and if he stays busy, I think he should fare well.
Well, I know this. If they're going to go up to welterweight, they shouldn't go after Crawford immediately.
No, of course not.
It was a very eventful night in boxing. Later that evening from the Cosmo in Las Vegas, a very entertaining and eventful show put together by Showtime Sports and the PBC. Junior lightweight Hector Garcia, 2.5 weeks' notice, upsets the previously undefeated Chris Colbert. Junior welterweight prospect Gary Antoine Russell with a controversial 10th-round stoppage over Victor Postal. And we have a new IBF junior bantamweight champion of the world, Fernando Martinez. Don't cry for me, Argentina. He beats up German Ancajas in 12. A couple of quick thoughts. Hector Garcia, he just flat out avalanched Chris Colbert with activity and pacing. And the thing that is very alarming for Colbert, if you're fast but can't hit, you better be elusive. He got hit way too much. That was actually alarming. I actually worry about his overall future at the top end of that division at 130.
Especially if you're going against heavy-handed guys.
Absolutely. And Gary Antoine Russell, even though he won and he kept his knockout streak, he ran into a lot of right hands from Postal, who's not a puncher. He was marked up. Michael Ortega seemed to me like he was in a rush to stop a fight very prematurely. I did not like that call. And then Fernando Martinez, look, typical Argentine tough guy, well-conditioned and strong. And German Ancajas, German, if you're not going to move your head, you better move your feet. He did neither, and he got beat up. And also Sunday, in what was an absolute snoozer of a fight, the WBO Cruiserweight title as Lawrence Okoli retained his title. We come back. We have more on the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller. And we are back on the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller. Mario Lopez, Steve Kim. Mario, I was in beautiful San Diego. They kept it classy, by the way. Wednesday afternoon, Canelo and Matchroom and DAZN, they made it very clear. They made it official. May 7th, Viva Las Vegas. He's going to take on WBA light heavyweight champion Dmitry Bivol. And should Gennady Golovkin beat Ryuto Murata April 9th, that's official now in Japan, we'll have that third chapter. Mario, I'm sorry, we said it a couple weeks ago. Name me another fighter that's going to have a tougher road, an eventful road as Canelo Alvarez.
I hope he has a chiropractor on staff because his back's got to be killing him.
Oh, carrying the sport. Oh, my God.
My guy, talk about, you mentioned a while ago, a couple times, fighters being inactive. Not only is he the best fighter in the sport, not only is he the biggest star in the sport, he's also the hardest worker in the sport. Carrying the sport, not just from a marketing perspective, but my guy, I've always said he's a champion's champion, taking on the biggest challenges, champion after champion, going up a weight class, and now in what's the most dangerous person I feel and worst matchup for him in Dmitry Bivol. Whoa. He doesn't have to do this, Kim. That's the thing. He has been financially set for well over a decade now.
Yeah.
And first of all, let's talk about that for a second. Those numbers being like $185 million for 3 fights.
Yes.
Pretty damn impressive and pretty damn good. But you know what? He deserves it. That's the thing. He deserves it. He's really taking on these challenges. And one would hope, as you're riding the tsunami wave of Canelo, that other fighters would not only get inspired to maybe, fight each other, to not have to just worry about hitting the lotto ticket to face Canelo Alvarez, to build their own brand, but being on those cards, maybe parlay that momentum to start building a little star-making power of their own. Because Canelo he's Elvis, and everyone else out there is Weird Al Yankovic.
Wow, eat it. It's funny you should say that. I asked Canelo at the media roundtable if he wishes other guys would do more to make a case for them being next in line. This is what he told me.
This don't really, I wish. I really don't care. But sometimes everybody, you guys, ask so much, hey, you need to fight with Canelo. Why they don't fight each other? And I fight the winner of all of them. Simple, right? Simple. But you guys always asking too much to me. And I know I'm the best fighter, but I fought with every single, the best fighters in the division. I just beat everybody in 168, all the champions. And then you still say, no, but you need to fight. Why? I don't understand that. So, but it's okay. I right now I can do whatever I want, and I just do the best things, and I fight with the best, with the champions. So this time is not that different. Right?
Yeah, I mean, Mario, the bottom line is he's doing all the work for them, and he's acting as a one-man Mexican stimulus package for the rest of boxing.
Yeah.
Here's why I think that he's doing this, because I asked him, do you actually think you're a better fighter when you fight more? He actually said, no, but this is my prime. I'm not wasting it.
So smart. He's right. So smart. Look, this isn't golf. You can play it for the next 40 years.
Yeah.
You got to take advantage of this window, this small window that you have, because believe me, and I know from experience, your body starts to betray you. It starts to break down, and once you start dealing with injuries and it gets shorter, then your reflexes aren't as sharp, and then that's all she wrote. He is so smart to be able to do that. And man, he's got a lot of fights under his belt. Clean looking grill. The body has been banged up a little bit, but that's the wear and tear. And I think I saw you ask him too, as far as how long does he see him doing this, right? And I love his answer too, because I think he said he threw out there like maybe 37, 38. But if he's fighting another 3-4 times, he's only, what is he, only like 31?
Yeah.
My God, look at how young he is.
He
and
might
it feels like
end up with 75 to 80 fights.
Last we'll see. Last of the Mohicans.
Last we'll really see at the upper
Last we'll
level.
see at this upper level and the caliber of opponents. So, you know what, Kim? He gets through this this little brigade of fighters he's got. If he ends up doing Bivol, Triple G again, and then maybe does better BF, and for some reason ends up winning all that, we got to start talking about him maybe his all-time greats.
Absolutely.
Forget generation. Is that fair to say?
Absolutely. This particular fight, after a short dalliance with the PBC where he faced Caleb Plant in November, is back with Matchroom and the Zone. I asked the head of Matchroom, Eddie Hearn, how did he reacquire the services of the Mexican superstar?
With the help of God. No, we have got a fantastic relationship, Sal and I, and Eddy Reynoso, but it doesn't just mean he's just going to sign with us, do you know what I mean? But if it's close, we'll always get the nod, because he loves to work with Matchroom, he loves to work with me, and we presented him the opportunity that I think ultimately he preferred. It's never about money with Sal, of course, that comes with his greatness, but it's more about the direction, the vision, facing champions, and it has to excite him. Mm-hmm. He likes facing champions, you know, and taking their belts off them. And if you look at it really baffles me when people question his CV. I mean, like, we broke it down so many times, but Gennady Golovkin twice, Daniel Jacobs, Sergey Kovalev, Callum Smith, Billy Joe Saunders, Caleb Plant, Dmitry Bivol. These are all champions that he's facing. Like, he's thrown in one mandatory defence, which was Avni Yildirim, which he had no choice. But he doesn't need to fight these guys. And Dmitry Bivol, you know, like someone said earlier, oh yeah, well, you guys were there, weren't you, when you said, someone said, Sergey Kovalev was a bit past it though, wasn't he? Dmitry Bivol's not. He's in his absolute prime. I think this is a really tough fight.
You know, Eddie, it's interesting. So there you have it. Those are the words of Eddie Hearn. And look, it's clear to me, and I'm going to use my very limited Spanish here. Canelo and Eddie Hearn are simpatico.
Muy bien. Muy bien. By the way, Canelo's English is getting much better.
Yes, it is.
Really good. I give him props for that.
Also, Eddie Hearn is working on a third fight in 2022. That's what he told me. And he detailed some of what could be going on in December should he get past Bivol and Golovkin.
3-fight deal?
The third fight is being worked on at the moment with myself and Eddy Reynoso. We have a 2-fight agreement with DAZN. The third fight with Matchroom is already evolving. They've made it very clear they want to fight 3 times this year, and they will do that. I mean, subject to obviously coming through healthily from the first 2 fights, but our desire with Saul is to box him internationally. You know, we believe in global stars. Saul is by far the biggest star in American boxing. I think the biggest star in all of boxing, but I would love to see him fight in the UK. I would love to see him fight in Guadalajara, and that is the most likely location for the December fight.
So, Mario, the bottom line is if he wins those first 2 fights in May and September, it's going to be either John Ryder, his mandatory in the UK, because he's an Englishman, or that cruiserweight we talked about in Guadalajara. Now, how big of an event would it be in Mexico for the triumphant return of Canelo? I don't think he's fought in Mexico since Kermit Citron about 7-8 years ago, if I'm not mistaken.
Do you think he could beat Chavez's record at Azteca Stadium? For those who may not be familiar,
130,000.
Chavez holds the world record for the biggest, well, not just boxing, combat event ever in attendance, 130,000.
That's amazing.
It's unbelievable. It's bigger than SoFi Stadium plus another 40,000.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy when you think about it? And they were all there. I'll never forget that. He fought Greg Haugen. Never forget that. And I don't know. Maybe Canelo can do it, right?
Is there a stadium in Guadalajara that could do that type of
There's pretty big stadiums down there.
event?
There's
Okay.
pretty big
Well, there's a lot of
stadiums.
soccer. A lot of
yeah,
soccer.
a lot of soccer. It's a big city. It's one of the biggest cities, so yeah.
And finally, during this media roundtable, Canelo was very blunt on some of these other fighters, namely Jermall Charlo and David Benavidez, who don't win the lottery ticket. He told something that I think can be described as a Hiroshima-sized truth bomb.
But it's you need to fight. Yeah, but for me, it don't make sense, right? Because they have nothing to offer me. I just want to continue make history, and they have nothing to offer.
So, Mario, do you have an objection to what Canelo just said?
God, I absolutely not. He makes perfect sense. You know what I was thinking as I was hearing that? He's absolutely right. And if I'm any trainer or manager, or promoter for that matter, I point and I say, look,
That's the guy.
that's how you do it. That's how you do it. You want to be a star? Then you got to build yourself to be a star. Quit begging, pleading, campaigning. Work, fight, show me. Do something, show me, put in the work so you can deserve that opportunity.
You know what I call it? Commitment to craft.
Right.
And it doesn't seem to be just boxing. His English is light years better than it was 3 years ago.
Exactly.
His golf game is pretty good.
Yeah.
This ain't Charles Barkley.
And he just started.
Yes, it looks like he's going to be playing some tournaments. Let me point this out, though. When you talk about guys who need to create their own legacy, a lot of people are kvetching, talking about how David Benavidez deserved the shot. I like David Benavidez, as do you. I think he's one of the most exciting, hard-nosed, rugged fighters in the world. He set a record, Mario, that I don't think will ever be matched. I've never seen it before. He had the same title twice and lost it without ever getting defeated. If you'd have had that belt like Caleb Plant, who got a $10 million payday for having that IBF super middleweight belt,
Belts matter.
you would have been, absolutely it does. And by the way, his last 3 opponents, Kyron Davis, Ronald Ellis, Romer Angulo Alexis.
Yeah.
Not exactly murderer's row. As for Jermall Charlo, another explosive, fun fighter. Did you know last year he had 1 fight? 1. And he fought Juan Montiel Macias. You know what he was best known for, Macias, before facing Charlo? He got knocked down 3 rounds by Jaime Munguia as a prospect. So say what you want. You don't have to love Bivol and Golovkin, but if you put together the respective resumes and the selling points, those guys are 3rd and 4th.
Kim, if anyone disagrees with the path Canelo is taking and doesn't acknowledge that he's not only the biggest star but the best fighter in the sport, and no one is on his level whatsoever, and he should choose who he wants to fight at this point, if they don't give him full props and there's any sort of negativity towards him, then they're either ignorant, just plain stupid, or hating.
Or have an agenda.
Or they have an agenda they're hating. Because honestly, what are you going to say? You can't point to another fighter that has the power, the resume,
and still tests himself.
and exactly, and the ambition that he does.
You know, Bivol is his out of the last 5 opponents, and we know Avni Yildirim was the homecoming opponent. We get it. Dmitry Bivol represents the 4th undefeated world champion Canelo will have faced in 5 fights.
That's unbelievable.
Show me another guy that's done that the last 25, 30
Well,
years.
that's my point. That's what I'm talking about with the all-time. By the way, when they had the press conference, they were standing next to each other. Dude, Bivol looks big.
Yes, and he's a fresh athlete.
Yes, and he's got that style that's all wrong for us, baby.
I spoke.
He's mobile. He's quick. Now listen, Canelo's gotten good at chipping away, as we know, and I don't know if he's having the same sort of approach that he will with a Golovkin, where he finally did catch him. What was it, in the 10th, 11th, something like that? We'll see. But
I love this fight.
But it's a challenge. That's
Yes.
a challenge.
Mario, this Friday night on ESPN Plus from the Save Mart Center in Fresno, California, it's the return, a big junior welterweight crossroads battle. Jose Ramirez takes on Jose Pedraza. Mario, put me on the record right now. Wepa, I like Pedraza if he can get a fair shake in Fresno.
Wow. What is it about him that you like?
Couple things. Pedraza can switch it, but he's very effective as a southpaw. What has given Ramirez problems? You thought a couple years ago that little Zepeda should have gotten his hands raised against Ramirez. Josh Taylor, southpaw. I was very surprised that Ramirez and his management took this fight. This is how good of a fight this is. Jose Ramirez is rated number 2 by Ring Magazine at 140. Pedraza is number 8. His last couple of wins, I thought he looked solid against Javier Molina and Julian Rodriguez, stopping him in 8. Ramirez has not fought since we saw him last
Against
year,
Josh
losing
Taylor.
to Taylor. I look at all these factors, and I'm like, Pedraza looks like the play.
Yeah, I don't mind Ramirez taking that much of a break because he's been in some pretty rugged fights, and he's
It's a hard
busy
road
guy.
for him.
It has been a hard road. You know, it makes me think. Let's assume Taylor's moving up to welterweight. It gets very interesting at junior welter now. Who's the best fighter?
Yes, you got Regis Prograis. You got Subriel Matias.
Hello, what about Catterall?
Jose Zepeda. Catterall. Right. If there are 4
you know what I
vacant
mean?
belts, you're going to make a lot of good fights for 4
You're
belts.
going to make a lot of good. It's like I don't know if there's a clear cut.
They don't. There's
Right?
not one. There's not one.
How would you rank them real quick?
You know what? I'm going to be bold here. Call me Tecate. If he is focused and motivated, which is not always the case,
Yeah.
I think Zepeda's
So do I.
power.
Yeah.
And again, we don't know where Teofimo Lopez is. He's going to be a
right.
player.
And then, by the way, if he goes up, yes, that's right. I think he's right in the mix.
And another rugged guy I do not want to discount, Arnold Barboza. He's a tough night at the office for anybody.
That's a fun.
It's a fun division.
It's a fun division right now because it could be anyone's.
Right. Mix and match. Let's make some
And
fights.
who knows? Catterall too going in that mix based on that performance, right?
Right.
So yeah, that's fun.
And Gary Antoine Russell, who we just saw this past weekend. Oh, and I can't forget my nephew, Brandon Lee. But he's still a prospect.
Yeah, so he's got a ways to go.
But this is going to be a very interesting fight. We're going to see how much Jose Ramirez has left in the tank in front of his hometown fans. And then I'm driving back Saturday to San Diego, the 619, not the Pachanga Casino, the Pachanga Arena, otherwise known as San Diego Sports Arena. By the way, I asked somebody, are there any new venues in this city? And I guess the Aztecs, San Diego State, they're getting another football stadium now. That's why they played at Carson the last 2 years. And someone said literally it's the only sports venue they've built in the last 50 years.
So Pachanga Arena is the San Diego Sports Arena, but did they do a remodel or did they? No?
They
Just
may
a
have put
name?
in an extra cup holder. People that were there for the Joet Gonzalez fight in October, they said, Steve, it looks old.
It does still look old. That's where I saw my first concert,
Yeah.
Run DMC and the Beastie Boys.
Right. And that's like 86, 87.
Yes.
I still remember going to San Diego's Jack Murphy Stadium.
Yeah.
Miami
You could
Hurricanes
do
played.
a full lap all the way around, remember?
Yeah, well, San Diego State was playing Miami, and that stadium looked old in 1990. Imagine what it looked like when Damian Tomlinson was there.
Damn.
But anyway, this Saturday night on the Zone, junior bantamweight action. Roman Gonzalez was supposed to fight in the trilogy against Juan Francisco Estrada, but instead, Julio Cesar Martinez, the reigning WBC flyweight titleist, raises his hand and says, you know what, I'll take that fight. Mario, I know the guy's moving up in weight, but look, it's only a couple pounds, and we've seen Martinez. This guy is a human full-court press. He comes out of the gate quickly. I think we have chingazos.
I like the fights this weekend, both Friday and Saturday. Fun night of fights.
Fun night of fisticuffs in the Golden State.
Yes, I'm excited about that.
Roman Gonzalez, I thought, beat Estrada last year. But he's now a veteran. He's 34 years old, which for that weight class makes him about 43. 53 fights in. I'll make a prediction. The first 4 rounds is going to be an absolute shootout. Martinez, one thing is not in his vocabulary. Feel-out round. He empties the bucket early.
He's down to throw chingazos. He wants to go home.
Yeah, so I think it's going to be a very, very fun night. Make sure you tune in. And Julio Cesar Martinez is part of the stable of Eddy Reynoso. We need to get into this. Been some back and forth
Nice
thing.
transition.
Thank you. It's what I do. It's why I make the big bucks. But Canelo and Eddy Reynoso, they said some interesting things about the departure of Ryan Garcia. And then Ryan Garcia, he had a Golden Boy press
Did they
conference.
volunteer that information, or were they asked?
They were asked.
I was
They
gonna say,
volunteered
'cause-
it. Well, look, my view is, and this is the information I've gotten, I think Eddie specifically asked Ryan, give me your playbook, kid. Give me the keys.
You mean give me your phone?
Yeah, well, get him out of here. I don't think it was as mutual as they make it out to be. And then Ryan Garcia and his father saying all this stuff.
Oh, I understand. Oh, you just used a Hard Knocks reference.
Yes, I did. Yeah,
Okay.
Coach wants to see you. Bring your playbook. But I mean, to me, it's just like, Ryan, there's nothing else to say. My view is this. I saw one quote from the father say, yeah, well, my son would leave once in a while, but we're hoping that Eddie would be more sympathetic. Wait a minute. Eddie's a trainer and a coach. He is not your guidance counselor.
Listen. When you have the man in your stable,
who's the hardest
and he's
worker.
the hardest worker. That's what I was about to say.
Yeah.
He's the hardest worker in the room. You don't have you don't have time to put up with any lip excuses for anything. So you can just point to that guy and go, "Excuse me." He's making the time.
Yeah.
He doesn't have somewhere else to be. This is his top priority. What's your excuse? That should be the ultimate environment for a young fighter to thrive and want to prosper. I think, and I'm speculating here, what tends to happen, and I don't know if it's this particular situation or not, but people want a lot of attention. They want their hand held a lot, and you to succumb to their personal schedule. Well, that's not going to be the case when you're dealing with high-level fighters all the time. So if you want to vibe off of that and feed off, because you can only train. So look, even when Canelo was training, right? He's not training 8 hours in that day. You pick the 3 hours, whatever those 3 hours are, right? And then you could work around that. You just work around that. That's all. You're doing your road work on your own, and then you're working around that time. So, but some people feel like they want all eyes on them, all attention. And what I'm hearing, or what the rumors, is that there was schedule conflicts, and he wanted a little more personal time. And so now he's got his own gym, which I know you're a big fan of. Fierce King. You're a big fan of that name.
Fierce King.
And ironically, with that said, even though that was a great environment, I'm actually a big fan of Joe Goosen. And if Joe Goosen is able to kind of still be Joe Goosen with that tough love and discipline, then maybe it was a good move.
I saw some footage where Joe's working the pad.
I like to see that. He wasn't doing that Mayweather crap with all this. He was doing it was old school. Joe Goosen also likes a lot of sparring too.
Yes,
so
he
I'm
does.
curious if that's going to be the case too. They worked together back in the day.
Yes, they did. Here's the thing that I would ask Ryan Garcia. Ryan, you fought Valentine's night of 2020. He was out there in Anaheim on a Friday night. Drew a big crowd. Blew a guy out. Jorge Linares was also on that card. Fun night put together by Golden Boy. Then, with the pandemic, so everyone got sidelined, then you fought January 2nd or 3rd of last year. Me and you watched that fight. I remember that at your pad.
Luke
Campbell. So basically, you have a fight every 14 to 18 months. Do you really have the right to demand private, exclusive time with any trainer on that schedule, Mario?
Well, according to him, he's wants to be very busy this year. He wants to be very serious. So,
oh my God,
he's gonna. Well, am I right? Is that what he's been saying and stuff?
Yeah, okay.
So but look, they haven't been exactly really kind to him on social media. So every time he puts up a video hitting the pads or the little Cobra bag or whatever, people are kind of letting him have it. I'm sure he hears it, or I'm sure his family sees it. So it's put up or shut up time. I think the time has come, and he's got one in the books. We'll see how quickly we see him back in the ring.
Yeah, April 9th against Emmanuel for here or to go. And I love Oscar. Oscar was talking about this at the Golden Boy offices. He said, oh, yeah, maybe in like 4 years, Ryan and Canelo can fight at a catch weight of 165.
Oh my God, my guy's wilding out right there. He's just promoting right there.
Yeah, all right. Well, anyway, it should be a fun weekend of fights on behalf of Mario Lopez, Smokin' Tim Frazier, Justin Buffalo Knuckles, and Tino on the edits. I'm Steve Kim. This has been the 3 Knockdown Rule on Triller.